Bry Guy here, and it's time for another Pixels Refreshed. Yeah, I'm lead artist of Massive Damage Games, and I've done a ton of pixel art over the years. Today, I'm looking forward to showing you what I think of Metal Slug Tactics. Let's take a look. Oh man,
Marco,
they have
Leo,
these are beautiful sprite
Thermo,
animations. Like right off, the quality of the animations is
Thermo,
pretty solid. Like the turnaround for this character over here,
Marco, Leo,
right there.
Thermo.
Uh, So when you're doing Metal Slug, you really have no choice but to go crazy in animations because they had beautiful animations for their characters going all the way back to going back to Metal Slug 2 and 3. If you look at where let me see if I can find it. So Metal Slug 3, if you turn into a zombie, you get this beautiful zombie puke animation. And even this enemy right here, they have a full rotation animation as it wraps around the outside. They did a full 3D rotation, and that's basically the only animation they gave it other than effects. The explosions and stuff, like look at the anticipation on that one before he pukes. Pulls the head back, leans forward, leans down, and then goes all the way up. So like when you're doing Metal Slug, you have a lot to live up to in regards to animation. So already, when I'm seeing this, I'm thinking of the new Advance Wars remake, and I was wishing Advance Wars looked like this. This is much more in line with the aesthetic I was hoping for from an Advance Wars revisit. So there's another thing about this is there's nothing inherently that they're doing that's out of spec for modern, even for an arcade machine, they would have been able to have the frames of animation and everything that they're doing here. It's just much easier for them to process. There's no modern post-processing, there's no modern effects. It's really just pure pixel art. I mean, it's higher resolution than you probably would have seen at the time. I'm looking at this, it looks like it's probably 640 by 360 or 854 by 480. Let's take a quick look and find out. So when we look at the scene, oh my gosh, bicubic smooths to the moon. But we have a pure pixel here, so we can take a look. So go diagonal across. Looks like a 4 times increase. So image size, it's 25%. So yeah, it's 640 by 360. So its base pixel art resolution would be exactly 640 by 380, 60. You can see as soon as we do that and we zoom in, it gets really clean up close. Now, it looks like they might have some things at different resolution or just off pixel placements, because if you look at the characters and stuff right now, they're all perfect, but then these assets here are a little bit blurry right now. I'm curious if it's because they're running things at slightly different resolutions or if they're being placed mid-pixel, which can happen. This is awesome. So, I love giant sprites like this. Big sprites like this are a ton of fun to animate, but they're an absolutely ludicrous amount of work. So, let's see if I can pull up something comparable okay. So, when we're looking at, if I look at like, actually, some of the most fun I had in Star Renegades was making absolutely giant robot bosses, but they took a lot of time. Like, typically a character set in Star Renegades took me like 1 to 3 days to complete, but this boss took me, I think, 2 weeks to complete, and that was probably one of the longest assets that I made in the entire game. Some of the other ones that were just as large, I didn't struggle with as much, but when you're building big robot assets, I mean, they're a ton of fun, but when you're doing animation on them, the cleanup and stuff is a absolutely ludicrous amount of work. So, and you get to have fun with things like all the little parts as they move, and when you're doing effects and stuff, you can play around with drawing all the individual frames on the actual character animations. This one here is one of my favorites. I have this like giant shield slam that this does. So it jams the shield down, digs it into the ground, flips, and then crushes, and you get this slam, crush, break up. I mean, it's just fun to animate. So it's like I love to do these kind of animations in games, and seeing this kind of thing makes me really happy. It makes me want to play the game. That's great key art too. It's really, really nicely done key art. So that was Metal Slug Tactics. It's got a lot to live up to. It's kind of out of left field. It might be interesting to see how a tactics game like that plays. The bigger thing with this is obviously it's not what people were expecting. Metal Slug, for those who don't know, is much more like a Contra-like action game historically, but it was really big in arcades. I have all the Metal Slug collections, and I played all of them. And I don't think I would have been able to beat them in arcades, but they were wonderful to play on a console at home with much more lives. I remember my brother and I played through Metal Slug 3 over and over and over again till we beat it. Because the original Xbox version of it had a very limited number of lives. But I would dig out my Metal Slug 2, 4, and 5 collection. But they give you infinite lives in this one, so it was a little bit worse to play. But in general, these are great games. And I'm excited to see where they're going with tactics on it. I mean, it kind of makes sense to go to it. They have good examples of, obviously they have big examples like Red Alert or Advance Wars to look at for how they could do, in theory, combat or XCOM. So there's a lot of good examples on how you could do, or even Front Mission for that regard. I'm missing Front Mission like crazy. But the pixel art is rock solid. They're keeping very true aesthetically to a classic game, but with mostly modern resolution. That's really the only thing that they're bringing new here. It's not breaking any grounds other than just beautiful art. I can't see too much to complain about. The animations are phenomenal, and the size of the sprites is really impressive. So I'm looking forward to playing it. Anyways, that was it for this Pixel Refresh, and I'll catch you on the next one.